What is happening, my lovely FreeMelons? Thank you so much for joining me here on the FreeMelon Society. I'm Eli Martyr. Today, just a quick little food preparation idea for you. One of the most common questions or queries that I get is, how do I fight cravings? How do I transition properly to a high fruit diet, or at least a raw food diet? A raw food diet consisting of fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds, if desired. How do I go about doing that? Now, as I mentioned in another video, I advised against the use of fats, of nuts and seeds and avocados and whatnot, of very high fat content foods, concentrated food items, concentrated in the macronutrient fat, or even protein, like concentrated proteins and concentrated fats. So I advised against these things. Nothing in this video changes that stance. I still advise that you should abstain more often than not from high-fat foods, okay? You will be stressing your system less. The burden placed on your metabolic function in order to digest those really concentrated foods is lessened when you eat simpler foods like starchless green leafy vegetables and fruit, of course. However, for people transitioning from more mixed diets, in that mixed diet, you're getting a whole ton, probably too much nutrition, right? Too much bulk nutrition of heavy starches, heavy proteins, heavy fats, right? So habituating the system to taking all that nutrition in, right? The high fats, high proteins and whatnot. Yeah, you have to understand that when you try to transition in the initial stages, your body is still going to be clamoring for a little bit of that same stimulation that it was getting earlier. So in the initial period, yeah, sure, I would advise people to include nuts and seeds, include avocados, include some higher protein or fat content foods in the beginning, right? Anyway, even if that doesn't apply to you and you just want to try something fun, try this. You're going to get sun-dried tomatoes. One of my favorites, love sun-dried tomatoes. Sun-dried tomatoes are very hard to find where they have not been treated with salt or sulfites. So ideally, please, if you can source sun-dried tomatoes with no added salt or no sulfites, that's what I'm talking about. If it's just a treat, and there's some salt added for preservation, okay, sure, go ahead, try it. It's not going to be terrible, just as a little food experiment. But what you do is you rehydrate the sun-dried tomatoes in some water. So let the tomatoes sit in the water for however long, 30 minutes or so. They rehydrate pretty quickly, so you might not even need that long, but I would imagine the longer you let them sit in the water, the more rich the water becomes with that tomato flavor. And then what you do is whatever nuts you prefer, you dump those into the sun-dried tomato water, and then you let the nuts soak for whatever amount of time that particular nut needs to soak in order to activate. If it's walnuts, it's anywhere above 4 to 5 hours. If it's pistachios, it's probably a bit longer, 8 hours or so. Whatever it is, you can Google that and find out. Then the next day, once your nuts are perfectly soaked in that sun-dried tomato water, the nuts will be nice and rich and flavorful, and they'll have a little bit of that naturally salty taste from the tomatoes. Even tomatoes that aren't treated with salt to begin with, there's that salty flavor because of the natural mineral salts in tomatoes that the nuts will pick up once they soak in the water. So it's a cool way to get that little bit of a salty taste for those of you that are addicted to salt and trying to get over it. This is a way to do that, to have a meal where you're not adding extra salt, but you're helping to satisfy that craving for it. And then you combine the sun-dried tomatoes with your nuts, and that can be eaten as a snack on its own, or you can add that to a salad, and the result is a very, 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 very tasty meal. So anyway, try that out, see how it goes. I'm Eli, thanks for joining me, and we'll see you next time on the FreeMelon Society.